Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Sue, your 2022 Oakland mayoral candidate. Today I'm going to talk about PATH. The reason why I'm going to talk about PATH is because last week Libby talked about getting $30 million in grant funding from the U.S. Census to help with some of the affordable housing around Oakland. And everybody got excited. Well, I'm going to point out and show you why there's nothing to get excited about on that grant of $30 million. Because realistically, it doesn't really help anybody here in Oakland. It helps the developers, helps the builders, helps the agencies that oversee these rental properties. And again, this is rental. This is rental property. And the agencies are trying to convince you that the AMI folks with 26% to, I forget the upper number, but it was a ridiculous number. And that number is for a family of four. And so for a family of four, you would qualify under these certain programs to pay a certain percentage of your income, but it's still a stretch. It's still a long stretch, and it still harms all the residents here in Oakland. You're not able to create wealth. What you're doing, you're being enslaved by your home. The cost of your housing is enslaving you, and it's preventing you from being able to move ahead or create any kind of real success. And the rich are just enriching themselves. You're not being enabled in any way to move forward. In fact, you're moving backwards in this economy. My PATH plan is inclusive for everybody. And the program is non-competitive to our current capitalistic real estate system. So in my system, you're not going to get rich. This is not a get-rich program. This is a real program to help folks struggling. The essential workers of Oakland, the school teachers of Oakland, the fire and medical personnel of Oakland. These are the folks that are having to drive anywhere from an hour, sometimes 2 hours away to come into Oakland to work, and then have to commute the same thing back home. And that's not acceptable. Anybody who thinks that's acceptable, there's something wrong with you. Back in my day, I used to set a limit of 15 minutes from my front door to my job. And if I had to drive more than 15 minutes, that was too long back in the day. But of course, that was back in the 70s. So very different time back then. There was a whole lot less traffic, a lot less crowding. So 15 minutes was reasonable. And by today's standards, for me, I want Oaklanders to live in Oakland, to work in Oakland, to have your business in Oakland, and to be living in the community of Oakland. And so we have a program that's available right now, just that Libby doesn't want to implement it. City Council wants to implement it. Nikki Bass and Rebecca Kaplan and several others, we want to implement these tiny home HOA programs throughout Oakland because they are already in the City of Oakland Charter. We can right now immediately put in 2 tiny home villages in every district of Oakland, all 7 districts. And these tiny homes, they meet all fire and health and safety codes. They meet all standard housing and urban development housing codes and regulations. They're earthquake safe. The surface is a non-flammable surface. It's steel, so it's extremely durable. But if you go over to arched cabins, ARCHED cabins, you'll see what I'm talking about. These are the cabins that I plan on using for the tiny home villages here in Oakland. In fact, I'm about ready to order the first model for Project Home Key of California. I'm going to be setting it up right here, and you're going to be able to see it. You're going to be able to visit this tiny home when it's put up, and it's going to be amazing. And the model that I'm ordering is a 12-foot in width by 24 in length, and then it's 12 feet tall, so I'll be able to put a sleeping loft on the second floor. And so all my regular things that I want to lay out, which is the bathroom, the kitchen, entertainment area, living room, that'll be on the downstairs, and then I'm going to have a loft upstairs. That's where I'll sleep. And the advantage of also having a loft upstairs, especially here, if we didn't have the barriers coming in this coming week, that would be a big advantage, having a sleeping loft up top, because then cars, passing cars, even if they crash into your structure, you're above the actual impact zone of any vehicle that may go out of control. So it's a safety issue also. But here's some of the numbers that I've been working on for the tiny home villages. And here's the breakdown. Okay, here in Oakland, we had a population in 2018 of 433,031 residents. The average median income for the calendar year of 2018 was $68,442. That's the median income for Oaklanders, meaning that if you take the standard housing formula of 3 times your annual income, your housing maximum that you can spend on housing is $205,000 to $225,000. That's how much your home should cost you, maximum. That's the maximum that you can safely afford to spend. But yet, here in Oakland, we don't have anything that falls into that price category, because Mayor Libby Schaaf and the CAO and the planning department decided that they didn't want the essential people of Oakland. Those that make that smaller income are the essential folks and residents of Oakland. But yet they're forcing all of these essential residents out, and hoping that the high-paid workers of the tech industry and developing industries here locally come and live in Oakland and not buy, but rent in Oakland, because Oakland, the mayor doesn't believe in home ownership, obviously, other than for the wealthy. And she's certainly not helping bring home ownership to Oakland, and that's what makes a region stable. Home ownership, not rentals, not renting. Renting destabilizes a region, and all we hear these days are developers and landlords talking about how broke they're getting, how much they want from rent. It's about them. People aren't listening to you and me, who are the ones paying that outrageous rent to give them the rich lifestyle that they don't deserve. They didn't earn it. So, federal poverty levels for a single person last year or actually current year, this is 2020, poverty levels for a single person today is $12,760. And you can make up to a maximum of $25,520. That's in poverty. Two persons, your poverty is $17,240. That's your lower level poverty. Anything below these levels is substandard living. Very, very substandard living. Poverty is horrible, but below that is even worse. And that's where a lot of our population, especially those of us like myself who are living here on the street, I only get $1,030 of income from the government for my SSI, for my disability. That's nowhere near enough to house anybody. And I'm not the only one. There are thousands in the city like myself. But somehow they manage to be housing unstable with a friend or a relative like I was. And eventually what's going to happen, they're going to lose their housing, just like I did. Because my friend, he can only absorb so much. And then he has to say, I want my bed back. Same thing with a friend. You may be sofa surfing, and they're going to say, I kind of like my sofa back because I want to entertain, or I just want my space back. And that's reasonable. So there's a lot of housing instability because of the past administrations here in Oakland, and I want to reverse that. And we've had administrations that were absent. Just didn't show up. Then we had administrations who couldn't make a decision to save their life. And now we have a leader, if you will, who causes harm to 2/3 of her population here in Oakland. Because she's really removed 1/3 of the population here in Oakland, and that's the black African community. She's removed 30% of our community, of Oakland's character. This is a sterilization of Oakland. And the reason why I say it's a sterilization is because a lot of these organizations, like what Moms for Housing was battling, they buy up neighborhoods. Literally, they buy up neighborhoods on a daily basis and pay cash for it. And then they don't sell them. They just sit on them because they don't have to sell them. And so what they do, they just sit on it. And as the neighborhood changes, people move on, move out, prices go up, those homes sit empty. And then when the time is right and the sterilization is complete, those homes go up for sale. Those homes go up for sale, and they'll sell them only to the people that they want. Never mind that that other organization said that they were going to sell it to organizations and give those monies go to help children. Yeah, right. How often do we hear that? All the time by those crooked organizations. And that one organization was actually run by a white supremacist that we exposed back in December. So there are a lot of things that have to change here at Oakland. I'm changing Oakland. We're bringing tiny home villages. The tiny home villages make housing and living in Oakland affordable. I was just running some numbers right here. On a tiny home, we could get a fully operational tiny home. Not all the bells and whistles, but all the necessary basics to operate. And that comes in at between $18,000 and $20,000. complete, finished walls, hot and cold running water, shower, mini kitchen, Murphy bed, a home, a key of your own, windows that you can open and close, drapes or shades that you pull at night. This is your home. And this could have been done years ago. And last week, Libby talked about getting a $30 million grant for a city of Oakland for a lot of different housing projects. And that would help create 227 new housing units here in Oakland. Rentals, again, not home ownership. These are rentals. So we're still going to be paying a lot of rent. Instead of the average rent here in Oakland right now tends to be right around $4,200 for 600 square feet. So if you look at how much it costs, or what the developers are saying it costs to make one single 600 square foot unit apartment, 600 square foot apartment costs $600,000 to create. No furniture, no appliances, nothing. That's just the space. $600,000. Okay. And so with what Libby had last week, so we'll take off about $100,500 from that total price. So it lowers it down to $450,000. So you take that divided by 30 years, that's the value for the next 360 months. Still unaffordable, isn't it? You run the numbers, that's still not an affordable number. But what could have been happening all these years, rather than pissing away tens of millions of dollars, your Oakland taxpayer dollars. That's what Libby's been doing by having the criminalization of the homeless, pushing the homeless from one area to another area. I mean, it's just been horrible. If you knew how much the city has spent and wasted moving and harassing the homeless population here, rather than putting them into housing, we could have put them in the housing with health care, a small income, and still save money as compared to what we have right now. And this is why the city of Oakland is on the verge of bankruptcy. Before the COVID, the city of Oakland was deep in debt. The debt to amount of $2 billion. And the city of Oakland had not paid anything into the retirement accounts of the Police Officers Association or fire. And I don't believe SEIU either. So the city of Oakland's in big trouble. And before COVID, they were counting on a income of $2.2 billion. So you see how close we are. The city of Oakland is to bankruptcy. And that's a scary thought, because we saw what happened to Vallejo when they filed for bankruptcy. And we saw other cities across America that filed for bankruptcy. And unfortunately, that looks like that may be the case here for Oakland. If not now, but in the very, very near future, we could possibly see a bankruptcy filing for the city of Oakland. But still, city of Oakland continues to build high-priced, overpriced apartments and rentals. We need home ownership, and that's the purpose of my PATH plan. PATH, permanent access to housing. There's also another PATH program in Southern California, which has no relation to what I am talking about. And the San Diego version is people assisting the homeless. And so that's just a homeless program in Southern California. But permanent access to housing is what I am talking about. And you say, well, where does the property come from? Somebody's got to pay for it. Yes, they do. Well, you know what? City of Oakland already has acquired and owns property, residential property in all the districts of Oakland. It's already there. It's already paid for. Normally what City of Oakland does, instead of implementing an idea like what I've been touting, they sell that. They sell those properties to the highest bidder. Guess who the highest bidders are? Yep, it's those same crooked people that will buy anything and everything 24 hours a day. Same crooks. And those are the people that Libby is in bed with. And we got to stop that. Because right now we have said to Oakland, we want access to those properties so that we can develop those. Start changing things here in Oakland. We need those properties. But Oakland refuses to allow us access. And so we need to get rid of a lot of people. A lot of people. Libby's number one. Noel Gallo, another one that's a problem. Lauren Taylor, I'm not on board with him too much because he sides too much with Libby. He's one of, I just call him one of Libby's little minions. He certainly hasn't impressed me with anything. In fact, a lot of these city council people that have voted against tiny home villages, they should all go because they're part of the problem. Dan Kalb, I'm calling you out too. We need these tiny home villages. These are the things that Oakland needs. We need homeownership. We don't need more expensive, overpriced rentals. We need real homeownership and homes that are for sale, homes that are affordable, and homes that can be the foundation for helping to bring back the city of Oakland and its lifestyle and its heritage families. These are the things that need to happen in Oakland. And I'm bringing them to Oakland. These are good programs. They're solid programs. I mean, I've heard some idiotic numbers come out of Libby's mouth, come out of her CAO, come out of her EMT areas, and all those staff that she has, they don't have answers. All they do is criminalize the homeless, and they don't have any answers on housing. Their answer on housing is more overpriced housing, and then we'll lower the price through subsidies. My program we don't need subsidies. We just need to figure out how to get that individual with a $1,500 a month income. Once we can get you into a $1,500 a month income, you are home free. You can live in PATH. And those that are being harmed by a lot of programs right now and at risk of losing your home, PATH allows you to save your home and your family's heritage in PATH, because that home can be transferred into the PATH program. And there are ways that you can also remove that home from PATH at a later future date. And so there's a lot of great advantages with PATH. PATH actually helps our residents and Oaklanders, and it's revolutionary. It's going to change the real estate industry and how housing is priced right now. Stick with me. We'll be right back.